Hello, this is Bob Palmer, and I will be conducting the webinar today. We're going to start on time, and we're going to quit hopefully either early or exactly on time. I have everyone muted on the call, so if you have a question or if you're having trouble hearing, please just type it in the chat because I do have chat enabled. Let me say first just kind of what we're going to do. I want to tell you a little bit about who Data Guidance Group is, and then I want to talk just briefly about where we got this data, how we decided that is that these were the top 5 trends, and then we'll run through what we think are the top 5 trends and what some other people think are the top 5 trends: cloud computing, mobile applications, social ERP, data integration, and more, and at the same time, less do-it-yourself. And then we'll cover a number of other trends that didn't make the top 5, just to be complete, and talk then some about the implications of these things for business. So first, this is some information about Data Guidance Group. We've been around for 22, 23 plus years. We focus only on business software. And what's kind of unique about us is that all of our client-facing employees have business training expertise as well as technical training and expertise. We also support multiple products from multiple vendors. So we're not just a Microsoft shop, we're just a Sage shop. We do work with a number of products from different vendors. And we also will support in-house customized software for clients that no longer have the in-house resource or need an additional outside resource. So where did this data come from? Well, first of all, of course, various internet sources, read that Google. There's some Microsoft data available to partners that we've included in here. There's some Sage data that's available to partners that we have included in here. Gartner studies are always informative, and also other ERP providers do these kinds of studies. And of course, our opinion, our studies, our research, and our client base also figure into this. So I'm going to start with cloud computing, which really is 3 things: IaaS, infrastructure as a service; PaaS, or platform as a service; and finally software, SaaS, as a service. Really the difference between the 3 of these has to do with how much of the software and equipment is included in the service, or we like to talk about it as leasing hardware or software. So infrastructure is the most basic thing. If I lease infrastructure as a service, I'm getting the equipment, typically the operating system, communication, and typically also the other infrastructure elements: load balancing, firewalls, those kinds of things. So, the simplest description of this is you're leasing computer hardware, or you're renting computer hardware out in the cloud. Here's some examples. Rackspace does a lot of this. The new Windows Azure virtual machine is infrastructure as a service because you get Windows in the cloud and pretty much nothing else. Next level up is platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service is included typically here. Platform as a service, you'll get something else on top. So SQL Server on Windows Azure is a platform, SharePoint, Exchange Server, a web hosting service, an email hosting service. You're getting the hardware, the operating system, the infrastructure, plus a platform on which you can build. So it's everything except the actual operational software. And again, some examples: the Google App Engine and the Windows Azure SQL Server. Software as a service is also being called on-demand software. It's a software model in which you're getting software plus all the infrastructure and platform that you need to run the software for a single price. And this is basically rented software in the cloud accessed via the internet. Some examples: Sage does have some hosting for their 300 ERP. It's about $160 a month per user. Microsoft Dynamics NAV hosting, about $145, $150 a month, depending on what you need in there. Salesforce, Sugar CRM, Office 365, all of these are software that is paid for on a monthly basis, rented, leased, whatever you want to call it, as a service. Now, an example of what this might cost, or a comparison of this to a traditional software purchase, is kind of instructive. Typically, you would have software cost. In this example, we're looking at $34,800, almost $35,000. You would typically have some sort of implementation. You might have an ongoing support agreement. And that's going to be $60,900, almost $61,000. If you include the maintenance for 3 years, the software maintenance, what you pay to the vendor, it's probably going to be more than that, $44,000, $45,000. So this is a typical, you purchase the software or license the software and you install it on your hardware and you maintain all the infrastructure and the platform. If you compare that to a hosted arrangement, you can see that the cost of the software then is spread out. Go back. You don't have any implementation typically because it's already been implemented in the cloud. Now, if you need help with setup, with entering the setup data into the software, there would be a fee for that. You probably have some sort of a support agreement. So you can see that over a 3-year period, you're looking at a little bit less than it would cost you to do it on-premise. Of course, in year 4, you also continue with $14,000 worth of investment in order to maintain the arrangement. So this will give you an idea of what's typically included in on-premise and hosted cost. On-premise, you typically have to buy your own hardware. You typically have to pay IT service, telecommunications, so on and so forth. What's typically not included in the hosted cost is going to be implementation and training on the user side, not the technical implementation, but the user side implementation and training. So you say, well, how popular is this getting to be? This is a study that was done year before last, projecting what cloud usage was at the present time, what it was going to be, or what companies were going to be using it in 18 months, and what we're going to be using it in 3 years. Let me say the problem I have with these numbers in this study is they were including things like Salesforce.com and hosted email, which I think are much more popular hosted options than, for example, ERP or accounting software or other business applications. So you can see in the trend, the projection in the study indicates that many businesses are going to move to extensive use of the cloud. When you look at the reasons they're going to move into the cloud, this is what they say. I think the most interesting part of this study to me was the highest ranked options. Number 1 was we can experiment, which I thought was a great answer. Enables deeper collaboration, maybe, I guess. And the others are pretty routine kinds of things that that vendors say or that come in sales pitches for the cloud. A 5-year comparison, if you look at this on-premise deployment, including some IT support, including replacing hardware at 3-year increments, you can see that you can come up with numbers that show you that on-premise is the most expensive way to deploy hardware, software, and infrastructure. In my mind, it's what you include in these 2 blanks here that really makes the difference. And you can see if you are able to eliminate IT support, or if you're able to extend the use of your existing hardware, that the economics of this change pretty substantially. Second trend is mobile applications and mobile access. There are really several approaches to mobile applications. One is deliver it as a website. This, particularly with the advent of the new HTML standard, HTML5, is becoming more popular. It's going to become even more popular. There are also applications that are delivered as a special application. It is a Windows app, or it is a iPhone app, or an Android app that actually runs as an app on the phone. The third way to do it is there are some companies out there that have application generators that are back-ended by some software. For example, Microsoft Dynamics ERP. There are several companies that make what amounts to an application generator where you can say, I want to expose this data and I want it to look like this on the mobile device, and the application generator will create what's needed for that to happen. The fourth way of doing this is to actually do integration. There are, for example, some companies out there, and I'll give you some examples later, that provide ordering where you can have a mobile order pad, list the items the customer wants, get a customer signature, and then upload it to the web. Then these applications, which are standalone pretty much, load that order into some sort of an ERP system. Some examples of web applications and what's being done with web applications. This, for example, is the Data Guidance Group website. If you view this on a mobile phone, it's going to look like this. Same content, different presentation. We decided to go with a very simple presentation on the mobile phone. Web applications. Here's an example of one that Sage has done. This is now called Sage 300 ERP, formerly known as ACPAC. There's actually an application that runs on a phone that allows you to access some limited information from the ERP system. And you can drill down into this further. Here's another example. This is actually a screen from a dispatch system or a service system that runs on a Pocket PC or Windows operating system. Application generator and configurator. One of the examples that I use is this one, Nav Mobile, and this one integrates with Microsoft Dynamics Nav. It comes with some standard pre-built modules. You can do things like create orders, look at the customer list, scan barcode. You can do warehouse picks and put aways and some other warehouse operations. But you also have the capability, depending on what phone platform you're working on, to customize and to localize these different Windows applications that are fully integrated, or these different phone applications that are fully integrated on the back end with the Dynamics Nav product. So integration, what about that fourth option, which is use an existing platform and integrate it on the back end with something? Here's some good examples. Sugar CRM, which is a popular open source CRM package. There are beginning to be a lot of connectors for Sugar CRM to various back-end ERP products, simplest of which might be QuickBooks and several others as well. Microsoft CRM Mobile and Mobile Express are two ways of delivering the Microsoft product on a handheld. This product integrates with CRM, but in order to integrate CRM, there are a number of products being built for integration. For example, Microsoft has released integration with the Microsoft Dynamics series, which works basically the same way as an integration to an outside product. There are also different external products that help you move data between CRM and other products. B-Mobile is a product, third-party product that's for route sales. You can search for B-Mobile on Google. This is another example of kind of a best-in-class route sales system that has been back-end integrated into several accounting products. And there's a product called Surge Hub, which is an ordering application. This is an example of the Microsoft CRM Mobile. Mobile Express is actually what this is called. This particular simplified view of CRM comes with the CRM on-premise deployment. Third trend, social ERP. Social ERP is one of those that's a little more out there. About the only example of a quote-unquote shipping product that I have seen is this Canandy product. And if you decide to look at it carefully. I'm not sure how close to ready for prime time this is. But you can see it has a very Facebook kind of concept and Facebook kind of look and feel. The concept here is, first of all, that you would integrate your accounting with your other social applications, that you would also build into the accounting system that instant messaging capability, chat, or whatever you want to call it, and that you can actually do cooperative transactions in real time, which I'll show you an example of on the next slide. My assessment, our assessment is social ERP is probably not quite here yet, but I think there's some things going on in the market like Microsoft purchases, Yammer, for example, Microsoft purchase, that sort of portend the possibility that this may be in the plan. So here's an example of how a social ERP transaction might work. You need a new part for a pump. You might message the warehouse using an instant message tool or Skype, and you'd ask the warehouse, is this available? If it is available, it would be ordered and shipped with your authorization immediately. If it's not available, then purchasing gets notified with the pictures of the part that you wanted, and you would then go through the rest of the process in a social environment where the vendors could actually respond with quotes directly on the target ERP system, and you could authorize the transaction and actually handle all the shipping as part of that system. Will this happen? I don't know. Let me show you some of the things we see that are there now. First of all, many applications have the ability to do this. This is an example from Dynamics NAV, the Microsoft product, where you can attach different documents to a sales order or a purchase order, allowing anybody in the organization to get to them. There's another capability that this is, again, an example from Dynamics NAV. There's some messaging actually built into the application where you can send a message to someone and say, hey, look at this order. And when you click on the link, you'll actually go directly to that particular order. This is also integration of an Outlook-style dashboard into an ERP product. This particular box actually is inside the ERP product. So next trend is data integration. We're seeing tremendous things go on with integration of different disparate data sources. Some of them I've listed here as examples, but the integration, for example, of an email address collected on a website with email marketing and CRM and the contact management workflow process is really pretty amazing, as is integration of CRM with ERP and ERP with MRP, MPS, that sort of stuff. We're seeing tighter integration with marketing and the ERP and CRM products. I think this is a trend that is coming both in an analytics sense, that is the ability to reach across the organization and pull back what was disparate data in a single content. And I'm not talking about creating a data mart, which has been done for numerous years now. I'm talking about integrated out-of-the-box functionality that integrates all of these locations of data. More DIY, less DIY. DIY stands for do-it-yourself. And we're seeing kind of dual trends. In smaller organizations, we're seeing an awful lot of do-it-yourself IT and IT application selection. At the same time, larger organizations are outsourcing this product. One of the things that's producing this, I think, is that many of the major brands are trying to blur the lines between products. In the old days, we had Navision, Exacta, Solomon, Great Plains that all had their own positioning. Now Microsoft is Microsoft Dynamics ERP, and to distinguish its Dynamics GP, Dynamics SL, Dynamics AX, which are really blurring the product lines from pretty significantly different products. AX and GP and SL and NAV are tremendously different products in a lot of ways. Likewise, Sage has gone to the number system. Sage 50 used to be Peachtree. Sage 100 used to be Mass 90, 200, so on and so forth. The consumer, the business consumer, has a lot of trouble distinguishing between these products, and I think that's purposeful in a way. Some analysts have said Sage is doing this to make it easier for them to eliminate products out of their portfolio. I don't know. I haven't seen that yet, but I can tell you that my perception is that all of the manufacturers that own multiple products that have gone to this brand blurring, and I want to say these are not the only two that have done this, but all of them appear to be de-emphasizing certain products. So draw your own conclusions there. What we see typically in the do-it-yourself selection process is someone goes out and finds a list of products, the vendors all do a demo, and then there's a selection done on the basis of a demo. The problem with that is that vendors demo what they're strong in. They don't necessarily do a good job of needs analysis. So what we find typically drives this process on the do-it-yourself side is some sort of a problem. I was talking with a client the other day that has a system that's developed in-house. It's 27 years old. The operating system that it was developed on is rapidly declining in terms of support. They have developed a wish list. The wish list has probably 30 to 45 bullet points on it, none of which really address basic functionality of an ERP system. So they will have then begun to look to find products which will look very different in demo. It makes the process very difficult. What you typically see from outsourced selection, if it's done well, is a needs or requirements analysis process that attempts to gather all of the requirements, including the things that look pretty mundane, like what kind of vendor terms do you have? What kind of inventory management do you use? Do you use Kanban, min-max, so on and so forth? We really need an analysis at that level of detail in order to do some sort of an objective evaluation of products at the end of the day. Otherwise, we're going to have to rely on subjective data, which is not bad data. It's just it tends to be skewed data. So what we will typically do in a outsourced selection process that's well managed is, rather than a demo, we'll do an evaluation plan, and then we'll conduct demos based on a script that feeds into our evaluation plan. And that evaluation plan and script then forces the vendor through the areas of the product that we want to see and we want to evaluate, and gives us an objective set of data upon which to base a selection. So those are the 5 big trends that we see. How about a rapid fire some other trends? Apps are moving to true web apps, things that are not hybrids. NetSuite is a great example of an early product. Microsoft Dynamics Nav 2013 has a web app that runs in multiple browsers, not just IE. So it's not just OCX controls or C# code running inside the browser. A lot of these older products, Dynamics GP as an example, Sage 300 or AgPack as an example, are somewhere in the process of being redeveloped with current generation tools, some of them further along than others. There are a lot of products out there that are being discontinued or will be discontinued. For example, there are a couple of products that are based on Visual Fox Pro that are going to reach end of life in about 2017. So a lot of these products are going to be discontinued. Others are going to be redeveloped. So that's something that we're seeing that we need to look at. This idea of rapid implementation, out of the box, black box implementation, whatever you want to call it, is beginning to kind of rocket across the ERP space. There is better support today for a rapid implementation of an accounting system or an ERP system than there has been before, primarily because the vendors realize that they need this kind of an implementation, that customers don't want to spend months and months and months and thousands of dollars doing an implementation. So you're going to begin to see, if you're not seeing already, these sort of pre-configured, here it is for a distribution company, tweak it a little bit and put it into production where you can get rapid ROI, immediate implementation, and more standardized implementation. Return to customization. You know, I saw an article the other day in a business publication, I can't remember which one, that said development of applications for small businesses was one of the fastest growing business opportunities that's out there, which is good for me because we do a lot of that. But this return of customization, customers that were scared of customizing years ago have realized or have seen in competitors or in friendly competitors or sister businesses that customization now is easier than it was, and it's more stable than it was, and we're seeing better tools to do it. So that's another thing that we're seeing. Cross-platform development. If you develop for the web, you can develop in such a way, and let me clarify, when I say web, I don't mean that it's going to run out there in the cloud somewhere. We actually run web applications here internal to us that sit on a server just like a traditional application. The distinction is, instead of having a program that's installed on the local computer, you run a web browser, then you access the program through the web browser, and the web browser is all you need in most cases to run these applications. So cross-platform development is very easy with the current generation of programming tools to do in a web-based application. There's more open source stuff out there. I still have not seen an ERP system that's open source that I felt like was up to the quality level to justify the risk in going open source over something more off the shelf. And the economics of this are changing with the rise of cloud computing, but there's more and more very good off-the-shelf open source CRM and ERP products out there. And related to that, we're seeing more monetization of open source, and an example of that is Community Edition's Sugar CRM, which is free, versus some paid editions that you pay a little bit to have, like you might Salesforce, and you get more features in the paid editions. Another example of this is a web shopping cart product called Magento that has several monetized models as well as a community edition. So some implications for business, just in about 2 minutes. The ability to just work anywhere, anytime, and still have access to everything you have access to in the office. IT functions, particularly infrastructure functions, are becoming commodities. We are seeing more and more consolidation of IT support people that would be break-fix kind of IT shops in the past. Efficiency and effectiveness are becoming very important to businesses, and businesses, more importantly perhaps, are becoming aware that they can drive efficiency and effectiveness with IT. And competitive advantage also can be driven with IT, and I think businesses are realizing that. And finally, I think we're beginning to see, particularly in larger businesses, the acknowledgement that really one-size-fits-all IT, or the jack-of-all-trades IT person, is a thing of the past. We do business software. We don't do much infrastructure or hardware if we can help it anymore, simply because it's hard to be good at everything. And if you are good at everything, it's because you have separate people in an organization to do it that don't necessarily speak the same language or have the same goals in terms of customer service. So we're out of time. This is my contact information if you need to reach me for any reason. And if there are any questions, I'll hang around for about 3 or 4 minutes to answer those. You can just type them in the chat. Okay, we thank you for coming. We hope you'll contact us if you have any questions or any IT needs. We would love to discuss projects that you may have open or coming with you.